I'm joined now by the founder of Democracy Defenders Fund, Norm Eisen. Norm, thank you so much for coming on. We have major news right here that really shook up the entire economic world because it puts at risk the independence of the Fed, of our entire monetary policy, and that is Donald Trump's decision to try and fire Lisa Cook, who is one of the Fed governors. So can you explain the pushback that's happening at the hands of Lisa Cook right now?
Yes, Brian, as you know, the bedrock of our prosperity as a nation, and really the kitchen table strength of American families, is that we have a strong dollar, we have a reliable dollar, we have a Federal Reserve that is in charge of managing issues like inflation. If you attack the independence of the Federal Reserve, their ability to do their job, you weaken the prosperity of every American. And that's just what happened when Donald Trump baselessly announced last night, sent a letter saying that federal governor Lisa Cook, the first Federal Reserve governor who's an African American woman in the history of that institution, was being terminated. He claims that it meets the legal standard of for cause, but that's a joke. There's no basis that's been established in law for this termination. Immediately, the dollar weakened. The dollar got worse on exchange rates. That hit all of our pocketbooks. That's the meaning of Fed independence. It keeps us prosperous as a nation. Once again, like with his tariffs, like with the big brutal betrayal, the tax cuts for billionaires, taking away healthcare from average folks, he's hit us in the wallet again, almost as if he intends to harm the American consumer.
So I got to ask first and foremost, the only way that Trump has a legal basis to go ahead and fire Lisa Cook is, as you know, for cause. Now, he's trying to gin up some scandal about mortgage fraud, which is a claim that this administration has leveraged not just on Lisa Cook, but also on other people who they view as political opponents, including Adam Schiff. But can you talk about the legitimacy of this claim as it relates to Lisa Cook?
It's utterly ridiculous as to Lisa Cook. The same is true with very similar claims that are being made about Donald Trump's adversaries, Adam Schiff and AG Tish James. In the case of Lisa Cook, what you have is the head of the federal agency that regulates mortgages, a sharp Trump partisan and campaign donor, Bill Pulte, who has launched these smears against these three adversaries of Trump. Of course, Donald Trump has a historical grudge against Adam Schiff for leading the first impeachment, where I was a counsel. Tish James for prosecuting his own mortgage wrongdoing. And here with Lisa Cook, it appears what he wants to do is get one of his cronies on the Fed, undermining the independence so it can do what it wants. But as a legal matter, Brian, pause means doing something wrong on the job, inefficiency, neglect of duty, malfeasance in office. It's all job-related stuff. Here you have a tweet from Bill Pulte, the Trump partisan, alleging that Lisa Cook did wrong. That is not a legal basis for cause. No wonder she and her lawyers are saying they're going to litigate it. They should, because as has happened so many hundreds of times, if this matter goes to court, the courts are going to say, what? Again, first Adam Schiff, then Tish James, now Lisa Cook. Give me a break. The courts are going to be very skeptical.
As of right now, practically speaking, is Lisa Cook fired? Is she showing up to work? What are we dealing with in terms of the logistics of actually going to her job?
Donald Trump's pronouncement that she's fired has no legal basis. In my view, it's null and void. She says she's going to show up for work. She should show up for work. And of course, she should litigate this matter, because what Donald Trump is doing once again, he's abusing the rule of law. He's turning us into a police state, not the United States. We don't have presidents who criminalize their grudges against their political adversaries. That's not what America is about. It's like something out of the nightmares of the 20th century. So that's why the courts have rejected him so often. He's lost another big case today where he sued the entire federal judiciary of the District of Maryland. And a conservative judge, it was not a liberal Democrat, said this is laughable, threw the case out. I think that Donald Trump is doing the same thing with Lisa Cook. There is no pause based on a tweet from Bill Pulte.
And so what are next steps now from a legal standpoint? Is her legal team seeking some type of injunction or temporary restraining order so that we can have some clarity here in terms of what happens tomorrow when she tries to show up to work?
They've said that they're going to go to court to contest this. And unlike some of the other cases we've seen, the Supreme Court just said that the Federal Reserve is different, is entitled to more protections because it's a uniquely structured quasi-private entity that follows in the distinct historical tradition of the first and second banks of the United States. What that means is Congress has more power based on the Constitution and our history to protect the Fed. They've done that with Fed governors by saying terminations must be for cause. This is not for cause. So unlike some of the other cases, I think that Lisa Cook and her lawyers, led by the brilliant Abbe Lowell, I work with him often, his colleagues at Lowell and Associates, they quit big law. They set up on their own to fight for democracy, and they've got themselves an important case here. And I think this is one where there's strong recent Supreme Court precedent from the Roberts Court that helps them.
Norm, does it surprise you that as it relates to Bill Pulte, this guy is in his position solely to offer Donald Trump these baseless predicates to be able to launch attacks against his political opponents? Like, that's what this guy's entire job boils down to.
Well, the Trump administration is full of people who, instead of their qualifications for the job or providing their independent judgment, giving their best effort, qualification is loyalty to Donald Trump. But Pulte is taking that to a whole other level by weaponizing mortgage applications against the perceived enemies of Donald Trump. And I don't think the courts are going to stand for it. It stinks to high heaven. The judges of every party, Brian, as you know, over 200 times, judges appointed by Bush and Trump, judges appointed by Biden and Clinton and Obama, have rejected illegalities of this administration. They're trampling the rule of law. But these attacks, criminalizing the political opposition to Donald Trump, are some of the worst abuses. I think the courts are going to see through that. Nobody knows for sure, but it's a noble fight. And it's one that must be waged. And those day in, day out fights, you and I often talk about them. We've covered so many different cases here. They are how we are going to hang on to this democracy of ours.
Norm, can you talk about why Trump is so hell-bent on being able to replace legitimate members of the Federal Reserve with his own appointed lackeys?
He has the idea that if he puts his people on the Fed, that they will lower interest rates, never mind the inflation risk, which is substantial, and that it will goose the economy. He's panicky about the 2026 midterms and the backlash. So he's thrashing about. He tried to find 5 extra seats in Texas. California's checking him on that. God bless Governor Newsom and the Californians for pushing back on that. So now he's looking for something else to get him out of this bind that he's created with his rule of law violations and his giveaways to his billionaire cronies. By the way, he likes to take these outrageous actions because it changes the subject from his biggest fear, the Trump Epstein files. We just filed a lawsuit to get a hold of those Trump Epstein files. He wants to change the subject, but he also thinks he's going to help the economy. But Brian, He's hurting the economy, not helping it, because by undermining the functioning of the Fed and the independence of the Fed, he's weakening the dollar. That means we're all going to pay more for things, and it weakens the economic position of the United States. It puts us all in jeopardy. The strength of our country is being undermined economically by Donald Trump's behavior, plus the tariffs, plus the tax cuts that took away the health care and other benefits from average folks. He's destroying the economy instead of, as he thinks, goosing it. And you know what? The American people see through him. 37% approval rating. They know what he's doing. They're actually smarter than the elites at times.
You know, I think that's such a great point about his efforts to kind of turbocharge the economy that ultimately are having the complete opposite effect. I mean, this effort to boost the economy by filling the Fed with his own self-appointed lackeys is going to send inflation higher. That's the whole reason the Fed isn't doing it right now, which, by the way, used to be important when Republicans spent the last few years railing against high inflation. It was the whole reason that Joe Biden's approval rating was as low as it was. And now Donald Trump's approval rating, to that exact point, is as low as Joe Biden's was, with inflation rising every single month since March. And so he's only going to exacerbate the very problem that he himself campaigned on fixing. And that's to say nothing about the fact that he's also promised to lower costs and instead has sent them surging with his misguided trade war, and has said that he would protect earned benefits and entitlements, only to cut Medicaid for 17 million Americans and food assistance to the tune of $300 billion. So it really does go to show how Donald Trump just pulled a bait and switch on his own supporters by promising them one thing when, he wanted to manipulate people for their votes. But then once he got into power, he's just more interested in the optics that he's doing well, as opposed to actually helping the economy. And of course, if we see any numbers that aren't to his liking and that don't lend themselves to his grand vision that Donald Trump has for himself, he'll just fire the statisticians or anybody who gives them...
Kill the messenger.
Right.
Kill the messenger.
That's exactly right. Norm, I do want to take this opportunity for folks who are watching right now. If you're looking to support the invaluable work that Norm and his team are doing on the front lines, which is in the courts, please, I'm going to put the link to Democracy Defenders Fund right here on the screen if you'd like to donate. These are the folks who are fighting, again, on the front line. So if you want to be able to donate and help these folks out, you can click the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. Norm, I appreciate your time.
Brian, so many people are rightly concerned about the direction of our country. It's so terrific to come on with you and your viewers and listeners to say, hey, there is accountability. The American people are figuring it out. And the courts are an important part, not the only part, but are a very important part of doing that. So have me back anytime. Donald Trump is going to fail. And I'll tell your listeners for the umpteenth time that they and your viewers are the ones who represent the hope for this country. So keep on going, folks.